I grew up in quite a few different places. My mother well, both of my parents have PhDs, but my mother's academic career took off before my father's did. So we sort of traveled the country as she was trying to find the right fit for her career. So I was born in Iowa, strangely enough. And then I've also lived in Washington, D.C., Southern California, but I did most of my growing up in upstate New York. And that landscape is still very important to me. There are some rolling hills there that, yeah, somehow like seeped into my consciousness, I think. And also, sort of, you know, Southern California is a very multicultural place, but to sort of move from Southern California to this mostly white town in upstate New York, I think, was shocking and sort of highlighted the sort of racial isolation I felt. I first started writing probably when I was a teenager. I think it's common for teenagers to have, I think to write poetry, but I think to have some sort of creative outlet. But in a serious way, I probably didn't start writing until I was in my mid-20s. I wrote a little bit in college, but I was living in Boston and had a job that I knew wouldn't be my life's work, and I was trying to identify, you know, that passion, that pursuit, that I could sort of build my life around. And the more I thought about it, having read poetry widely in college and sort of dabbled with it a little bit, I decided I wanted that to be the passion, you know, which was at the center of my life. In terms of my process for writing a poem, I think each poem comes differently. I think there's maybe one poem in the book that I had the idea for it. I wrote it in an afternoon and it was more or less done at that point. But most of my poems have come through tinkering and revision and sort of that hard work after the moment of inspiration. I mean, I love that moment of inspiration when you have an idea for a poem and you're just scribbling and writing, and you're sort of completely caught up in the creative process. But I think art is truly made in the revision process and going back and thinking about your images, making them as clear and as sharp as possible. And also in sort of massaging your work to make sure that it is, again, as clear as possible, and that the action is hitting the reader in as emotional a way